In the dim light of early spring on March 27, 1989, a remote stretch of highway outside of Duluth, Minnesota, transformed from an ordinary road into a silent witness to a chilling crime. The discovery of a young woman's body, entwined with the roots of the nearby birch trees, sent shockwaves through the small, tight-knit community. Named only as Jane Doe for decades, she became a ghost, a symbol of unresolved pain and unanswered questions. The circumstances surrounding her death remain a haunting enigma, as investigators scrambled to piece together the fragments of a life cut tragically short. The community, once bustling with the laughter of children and the warmth of neighbors, was now cloaked in fear and speculation. Who was Jane Doe, and how did she end up in such a desolate place? The questions reverberated through Duluth, drawing attention from law enforcement and media alike. As authorities combed the scene, they unearthed a series of disturbing clues within the surrounding area. A light blue sweater, frayed at the edges, lay partially buried in the mud, a stark contrast to the morose surroundings. DNA analysis, a revolutionary tool of the time, would take years to develop, yet initial findings suggested that Jane Doe was not alone in her final moments. Footprints leading away from the scene hinted at a struggle or perhaps a hurried escape. Those tracks, however, seemed to vanish into the thickening mist of the forest, leaving only whispers of who might have been there that day. The lack of definitive evidence painted a picture of uncertainty, as investigators sought to establish a timeline that could shed light on the events leading to her death. Investigators soon turned their attention to the timeline surrounding Jane Doe's last known whereabouts. A local resident reported seeing her at a diner just hours before she was discovered, engaging in a seemingly innocuous conversation with a man of average build and height. The diner's security footage, still preserved in the depths of the police department's archives, revealed only fleeting moments and soft echoes, images that blurred the line between reality and mere memory. The witness's hazy recounting, however, raised more questions than answers. Who was this enigmatic man? Did he hold the key to unlocking the secrets surrounding Jane Doe's demise? As the investigation advanced, the diner became a focal point. It was a hub of activity, and the potential for more witnesses lingered in the air, yet each lead seemed to dissolve, leaving investigators with little more than a name and a vague description. As weeks turned into months, the investigation delved deeper into Jane Doe's past. The meticulous search for her identity yielded a few scant leads that painted a troubling picture. A missing persons report filed just days prior to her death detailed a woman of similar stature and appearance, last seen at a local music festival. The report noted her penchant for dangerous relationships, hinting at a history of tumult and despair. But while those insights provided tantalizing glimpses into her life, they only complicated the mystery. The connections between her and the man from the diner remained shrouded in darkness, each lead dissolving into another dead end. Investigators began to explore her social circles, interviewing friends and acquaintances, but with each conversation, the threads of her life seemed to fray, revealing more questions than answers. On June 5, 1990, a breakthrough came when investigators received an anonymous tip. A caller, trembling with fear, claimed to have seen a man matching the description of the diner encounter, not far from the crime scene, on the night of Jane Doe's disappearance. The man had been acting erratically, often mumbling to himself and darting glances over his shoulder. Descriptions of his dark clothing and unkempt hair matched multiple reports of suspicious individuals in the area, yet the caller's anonymity cloaked any real progress in shadow. The chilling echo of this warning sent ripples through the investigation, but without a name, it was just another thread in a web of uncertainty. Law enforcement's attempts to trace the call went unanswered, leaving them grappling with the notion that the key to the case might be slipping further from their grasp. As the years trudged forward, forensic science took giant strides, and in 2005, the remains of Jane Doe underwent a second examination. Advanced DNA profiling and techniques previously unimagined revealed a match with a man who had been imprisoned for unrelated offenses. He had been in the area at the time of Jane Doe's death, but this revelation was bittersweet. The man denied involvement, claiming a mere coincidence. Law enforcement's inability to secure a confession led them back into the dark, questioning whether they were grasping at shadows or had stumbled upon an elusive truth. The complexity of the case deepened, as investigators weighed the possibilities of wrongful conviction against the haunting specter of an unresolved murder. In 2010, the case garnered renewed media attention, reigniting interest among amateur sleuths and seasoned investigators alike. A local cold case group began sifting through the archives, uncovering forgotten details that had slipped through the cracks. They discovered that the original autopsy report contained critical information: the presence of trace amounts of a rare substance found in only a handful of local plants. This botanical clue transformed the investigation into an unsettling path. Did Jane Doe know her assailant well enough to have traveled to such a secluded area? Did someone lure her there under the guise of familiarity, or was it pure misfortune? The implications of the findings sent shockwaves through the investigative team, prompting them to re-evaluate every aspect of the case, from witness statements to the forensic evidence. By 2015, the case had grown so convoluted that it felt as if a malevolent force lingered among the evidence, taunting, teasing, and leaving behind a trail of despair. Documents filled with witness statements were riddled with inconsistencies. A pair of hikers claimed to have heard screams echo through the trees on the night of her disappearance, but their timelines conflicted with one another. Each testimony was more riddled with doubt than the last, adding layers of confusion to an already murky puzzle. As investigators struggled to piece together a coherent narrative, the community remained on edge, haunted by the specter of Jane Doe's tragic end. The lingering questions weighed heavily on the hearts of those who had come to know her only through the fragmented stories that emerged from the investigation. Despite the advancements in technology and the persistent effort of investigators, the true nature of Jane Doe's death remains elusive. Her story is not merely a tale of a violent end but a haunting reminder of the countless lives left unanswered, the shadows of the past that linger in the hearts of those who seek truth and resolution. Cold cases, like Jane Doe's, are often left open, their mysteries echoing in the minds of those yearning to understand the unknown. The unanswered questions hang in the air, weaving a chilling narrative that continues to mystify, as the community stares into the abyss where justice remains unfound. Each new lead that emerges is met with cautious optimism, yet the specter of Jane Doe looms large, a reminder that the truth is often buried beneath layers of time and silence. In the summer of 1989, the Minnesota landscape was vibrant, but beneath its lush exterior, a tragedy was unfolding that would ripple through the years. As investigators delved deeper into the case, they unearthed a series of vital pieces of evidence that had previously slipped through the cracks. Among these was a blood-stained shirt discovered a quarter of a mile from where Jane Doe was last seen. It bore traces of DNA, yet the technology to analyze it was still in its infancy. The shirt was carefully preserved, awaiting the day when science would catch up with the evidence. As the investigation progressed, a timeline began to emerge. On the evening of her disappearance, Jane was last seen leaving a local diner around 9:30 p.m., where she had been working part-time. Witnesses recalled her laughing and joking with customers, a stark contrast to the grim reality that would soon follow. Just after 10 p.m., a nearby resident reported hearing a loud argument echoing through the trees, but the details were hazy, and the witness could not identify the voices involved. By late July, detectives had narrowed their focus to a group of men who were frequent visitors of the diner. One of them, a local mechanic named Tom, became a person of interest after a witness came forward stating they had seen him near the area where Jane was last seen. Tom had a history of aggressive behavior, and his alibi for the night in question was inconsistent. He claimed to have been at home, yet his neighbors reported seeing him out late, drinking with friends. Investigators were eager to question him further, but Tom had vanished by the time they sought him out, leaving behind a cloud of suspicion. Meanwhile, a forensic examination of the surrounding area revealed a striking clue, a set of tire tracks leading away from the diner. These tracks were analyzed and matched to a specific model of truck, owned by a man named Gary, who had a history of violent altercations and was known to frequent the diner. When approached by investigators, Gary was cooperative but evasive, claiming he had no knowledge of Jane's fate. However, his demeanor raised red flags. He was sweating profusely and fidgeting throughout the questioning. This behavior prompted detectives to dig deeper into his background, revealing a troubling pattern of harassment towards young women in the area. As the investigation unfolded, new testimonies emerged from unexpected sources. A group of teenagers who often gathered in the woods to party recalled seeing a woman resembling Jane in the company of two men near the riverbank shortly before her disappearance. They described the men as rough-looking and said they had been arguing with Jane. The police followed up with these leads, but the teenagers were reluctant to provide full details, fearing repercussions. This hesitancy only added to the complexity of the case, as investigators struggled to determine the credibility of the witness accounts. By the fall of 1989, the investigation was at a standstill, but not for lack of trying. Detectives utilized local media to reach out to the public, running appeals for information that yielded minimal results. Yet, the pressure was mounting, and the community was demanding answers. Posters of Jane Doe were plastered in every corner of the town, capturing the attention of those who passed by. "Have you seen this girl?" the posters asked, a haunting reminder of the life that had been snuffed out too soon. As the years went by, the case remained cold, but the advent of new forensic technologies began to change the landscape of cold case investigations. In 2001, the DNA from the blood-stained shirt was finally analyzed using advanced genetic testing methods. The results were inconclusive. While they matched a profile in the national database, the individual was not a known criminal, complicating the pursuit of closure. The breakthrough finally came in 2015 when a local cold case unit revisited Jane Doe's case with fresh eyes. Utilizing advancements in digital forensics, they re-examined the eyewitness accounts and found discrepancies that suggested a potential witness had been overlooked. This individual, a former resident of the area, had moved to another state and had never come forward during the original investigation. When contacted, they provided a chilling account of a confrontation they had witnessed near the riverbank, a scene that mirrored the earlier testimonies of the teenagers. This new lead reignited the investigation, leading detectives to re-interview Gary and Tom, who had both returned to the area. Under pressure, their stories began to crumble, revealing cracks in their alibis that hinted at their possible involvement. As the cold case unit continued to unravel the threads of deception, it became clear that Jane's story was far from over. The community, once again, found a flicker of hope that justice might still be within reach. The haunting specter of Jane Doe remained, but now, the shadows of the past were being illuminated by the relentless pursuit of truth. In the lingering silence of this cold case, the echoes of Jane Doe's life remind us of the fragility of truth and the darkness that can envelop it. After decades of unanswered questions, the relentless persistence of investigators and the bravery of a single witness breathed new life into a story that had been buried beneath layers of time and deception. As the past unfurls, revealing cracks in the facade of seemingly innocent lives, we are left to ponder the complexities of justice and the cost of silence. Jane's legacy has now become a catalyst for change, urging those who hold secrets to confront the shadows that haunt them. While the full truth may yet remain elusive, the quest for justice continues, driven by the hope that one day, every voice will be heard and every story told. As we close this chapter, we invite you to reflect on the power of community and the importance of speaking out. If you found resonance in Jane's story and wish to see more explorations of the mysteries that linger in our world, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to our channel. Together, we can shine a light on the untold stories that demand to be brought into the open.